Good morning, everybody. Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, good. Um, April's going to try to join us, but she has to teach class this morning, so she might not be here for very long. Um, give it just another minute here, and then we can get started. Oh, here's April. Okay. All right. Well, thank you everybody for joining us to kind of do a virtual evaluation of the 2024 NMA conference. I guess I don't really have any questions prepared. I don't know if April or Chris or if anybody has some questions prepared. Micah, you said you might do a survey.
Yeah, I didn't know if that was something that we wanted to do. I think I threw that out there as an idea. I wouldn't mind making up one if everybody thinks that would be worthwhile. Otherwise, in the past, we've done this, and I think that's the idea for today is what can we improve on for next year? First off, I would just say that Stir, thank you guys, Chris. That was amazing. I think this year's conference, having it at the Stir in Grand Island, centrally located, we had a record turnout. Our keynotes were amazing. All the programming was amazing. So that I think, as far as past years, this was a high bar.
Thank you. I guess I would be curious in knowing moving forward. I didn't get a whole lot of sense just because I was doing a lot of the logistical things, but didn't get a whole lot of sense of how effective, the breakouts were and classes and all those things. It would be nice to know if we fulfilled what people were looking for that way, from a content perspective. And maybe have a better idea of what people are looking for going forward. I don't know how we would get that. Maybe it's a survey, Mike. I don't know, but so that we can spend, the better part of this year developing ideas for content that might be more attractive to get these folks to come back and build upon it.
Micah, are you sure it wouldn't be like a huge thing on you to put together? Just it doesn't have to be an extensive, big, long survey. Maybe just like 5 or 6 questions, just to give us kind of an idea of what we could do better, what they really liked, and stuff like that.
Yeah, like you said, I could make it just 10 questions. It can be pretty simple. The previous survey, I did a lot of research going into
Yeah.
philosophy is like, what can you answer in a survey that a 990 can't tell you? So like that one was like research on the SN. This one, I think I could just look at the itinerary from the day and just be like, hey, of these sessions you went to or things like that. I know on our end, I tried to attend some, and then I had Patty and Sam try to attend other ones. And so we actually got a pretty good idea of all of the different ones. And everybody on my end, everybody came back with like a entire pocket full of notes. So that means that to me, it was successful. If you come back with something. And so I think from the other like national surveys I went to or national conferences and that I went to, we had a lot of value as far as what we provided for this year's conference. So I think the sessions I went to were really good. And so, yeah, I I guess I can ask questions along that line of, hey, like, and I think one of I think the important ones for me would be, what do you feel you missed out on? Like, what was a topic that you don't feel or that you wanted to explore further, or what topics do you want to see for next year? I think that would help guide us in for next year's conference.
For sure. Yeah. So I'm thinking if everybody could just think of like one or two things, like everybody on the board, if we could each just think of like maybe one or two or three or however many you want, I don't want to overload or I don't want the survey to be too big either, because if it's too long, people won't fill it out. If we keep it pretty brief, I think we'd be more likely to get some good responses. But yeah, I think that's a really good idea to ask, what would you like to have seen, or what would you like to have learned about? But then also we need to probably include something along the lines of like the technical aspects of stuff, like did you enjoy moving to different buildings, or would you prefer to have
Mm.
it be all in one location? Or, did do you want to see more tours of the city that we're in or something like that? Like stuff that's, just kind of all the aspects of the conference. Definitely the sessions, because that's kind of the main meat, of the conference. But then also, just yeah, if there's anything else that people noticed during that they would have liked to have seen or anything like that.
And
So,
and this is the first year that we've done multiple workshops and
mm,
tours on Monday, so I think we need to get a feedback on that.
right.
And
Especially, yeah, if we could get it from people who attended multiple conferences to see if, like, maybe there could be a question like, if you've attended multiple conferences, what is something, that you liked this time versus, or something like that. Like,
One thing we got to improve on for next year, we can't have any attack geese, right? No.
yeah, welcome to my world, Micah.
I
It's,
can only imagine.
it's a daily effort. The I think that I guess another suggestion would be for us to arrive upon a theme for this coming year as quickly as we can. And I know that the host has a lot to do with that, but we did a slightly different kind of modified committee for this year's event, in which the Stewart staff participated and did quite a bit of lifting on that, which is good. But we're aware that not every place that we're going to have the conference is going to have the resources to do that. So I think that arriving upon a theme as quickly as we can that is relevant, maybe we'll start to get an idea what that might be based on what the feedback from people is, what they want or what they need, what they're looking for. Uh, is going to arriving on that as quickly as we can will improve the quality of the conference, because then we can look for people who can specifically address some of those things versus, in the last 90 to 120 days, still looking to try to refine that.
I'm really pushing hard for next year is our last chance to really get programming started for 2026 for America's 250th. And so that's where I've been really trying to push resources into. I know ASLH, AAM, NPMA, they're all next year. That's a lot of their programming is going to be focusing on what's coming down the pipeline for 2026. I know if you guys have all seen your emails, ASLH has been sending out a big letter writing campaign to write to Congress to try and approve for funding for history organizations. If you haven't seen that, let me know, because I think that's more money for museums is awesome, especially easy accessible, federal funds getting ready for the 250th. So that would be where I would go. But that's something I think the planning committee, April, do we have a sort of a planning committee set together for next year, or Karen, or is it kind of the same hats from this year that go to next year? I'll take all the extra stir staff that we can get for next year's planning conference too, but
So I think Becky was talking to Libby about Libby helping with the planning. Um and then I don't and then they'll probably build out from there. Becky Thomas of
Mm.
of
Mm.
Becky Thomas of Becky, yeah, Becky with an I should say. But if anybody else wants to, I'm sure they'll be taking volunteers, and if anybody wants to help with that, they'd be more than helpful. But Libby said she would be interested in helping, so And since she's, yeah, Libby's really good at that kind of stuff. So, but I think it was really great to ask for proposals. I think we got a good variety by asking for proposals and asking for them early. And I don't, let's see what else.
Was that the first time we had asked for proposals, Karen?
No, we've asked for proposals in the past, but it has been a while. Um, but yeah, we've asked for them in the past. We've had mixed success. Sometimes we've had really good success, like we have in this year, and sometimes we haven't had as much success. So
I think it depends on the theme. Yeah, this theme was a really good one. I feel like we got some really good presentations and stuff from it. But yeah, I totally agree. I think the call out for sessions early was a good idea. And then the couple reminders was good. I think that helped us get a good variety and good quality presenters and stuff.
My only, I guess, looking at critiques, and this would be again something for the planning committee, would be I didn't quite like Monday. I mean, Monday was pretty packed with everything going on, but I didn't like how everything kind of had like an overlap. And so what I recognized was a lot of people did the back to back because they wanted to go to more sessions than one and then have either a late or an early lunch or depending on how that kind of set out. So I recognize that like people want to, if we can get like even blocks. So it's either a long block or a perfect, 8 o'clock to 10:30, 10:30 to noon, kind of a deal. I think people liked that rather than like a 10 o'clock to 1:30 or if that makes sense because a lot of people went to the conservation one that was early there. Chris, I don't remember the building, but the one where you guys have all your archival stuff, the storage and that. A
Yeah.
lot of people attended that, maybe too many people. And then I heard from some of the other folks that they didn't really go to the other one as much and it wasn't as attended, but I think we had limited spots on that one. But still, I think maybe for next year, having nice even blocks for Monday.
Well, and I know that we were a couple of the sessions, like I heard from our foundation that the session they did on fundraising, they were anticipating 13. I think they had like 40. So
yeah,
the being cognizant of how we can maybe manage that out a little bit better as the conference grows so that we can anticipate space needs. It's probably important because that room where they were doing it at, I putting 40 people in there was probably pretty uncomfortable and pretty tight.
right. So I'm not sure what happened because everybody was supposed to sign up for their workshops,
Yeah.
and only 13 people signed up for that workshop. So I don't know why 40 people went.
So I'm wondering if it's I don't know if it's a messaging thing or better
Yeah, I think
direction on our part or something. I don't
yeah,
know.
I think maybe it was like people were treating them like sessions rather than workshops. So they just assumed that they just could go. So I think next year if we do multiple workshops, and I don't know if they'll have the facility to be able to do multiple workshops like Stuart was able to do multiple workshops, um, is that maybe we color code their name tags. It might be just as easy as like, different color stickers, like garage sale stickers on their um, you know, oh yeah, April saying print out sessions would be available at that. But we just make sure that people know what sessions they are signed up for or what workshops they are signed up for. And that is what they go to, that they can't just go to a workshop that they didn't sign up for.
I'll admit I was probably part of that problem or my crew because we forgot what we signed up for. So like
Well,
having it in the morning and like it's like the back of the brochure or the back of the
schedule.
name thingy. Yeah, that was awesome. The
Yeah,
back of
that
that,
was really
always
nice.
being able to look and refer it. Perfect.
Mhm.
I just don't know if there's something we could do for that for Monday, but
Possibly.
something to think
Um,
about.
another thing, so I've had this brought up by the same people 2 years in a row, and I can tell you how I feel about it. But they want a print off of all the attendees.
Mhm.
Yeah. So as the person who
What
would have to
what
do that
for?
extra work, I don't think they understand how much extra work that is and how much last
I agree.
minute extra
Yep.
work that is for me.
Well, the other piece of this is, what's the intention that's going to be
Yeah,
done with
what do they
that?
want it for?
Yeah.
Because if
Oh,
I give my information, if I attend a conference and I give my information just to the conference, I'm assuming they're not going to share my information with any other entities
yeah,
for whatever purpose. So I guess the question would be is why do they want that list?
Well, and
And
that was my point to them. They cornered me in the gas station. I went to the gas
oh,
station next
the
to,
gas station people.
yeah, I went to the gas station next to the hotel to get some chocolate. And and they cornered me there. They he was diabetic and he didn't like the food because he didn't list his diabetic restrictions on the when asked about about food restrictions. And I asked him, "Well, did you put that down?" He's like, "Well, no, diabetic. That's just as people just assume that." I'm like, I don't think so. And I don't know, but I think that people just complain to complain.
yeah. I did have coming through the line, we did have a couple folks that said, well, I can't eat any of this. Not many out of 120, maybe a couple. But I think, certainly if we would have known, not being in a defensive posture, but I think this is
Well,
good for us to know moving forward. If
yeah.
we would have known that information, we would have had an offering for those folks.
Well, and we did put that on the registration, and he chose not to put that down. I'm lactose intolerant and fructose intolerant. I chose not to put that down because I can eat around that. He chose not to put his information down too. So, and
Yeah.
then chose to complain about it.
Yeah.
So he also complained about it last year too. So again, um, so yeah, I did point out to them that a list that we don't do that for privacy reasons. And he's like, well, can't you just on the registration put whether or not they want their information shared? And I'm just like, why? We're not going to make more work for ourselves.
No,
Yeah.
nope.
We
If
are a volunteer organization,
yeah.
and I
No,
don't see them
we are
volunteer.
we are here to serve and help Nebraska museums and be, a resource point for them and a beneficiary, but we can't be their office assistant support. We can't be their marketing team, stuff like that. Like we can't get into that level of just because, yeah, like Karen, you said, like we all have full-time jobs outside of this, and this is all volunteer. And no, we can't accommodate the conference registration to benefit just a couple people. We can't do that. And so I don't know of any other conferences that would do that, that says, would you like your information to be, are you okay with your information being shared with, because then you have to filter through every single one and see who does and doesn't. And then there's always the risk of human error of like missing one and accidentally sending out somebody's info that doesn't want it sent out. And it's
Yeah.
just, and the question is did they mention why they want the info?
Oh, she goes to medical conferences and they do it at the medical conferences, and then you can network.
Yeah. Well, my concern with it is our conference gets larger, which we presume that it will. We want it to, that it becomes a place where where vendors, which is fine, vendors will want to be able to reach out and sell stuff to people. And we can't, I know that all of you probably constantly get solicitations in your email too, and phone calls and whatnot. I do probably at least 4, 5, 6 a day that I have to spend time either looking at and deleting or, responding back to if they're valid. But I think that it would be hard for us to manage that. There's a place at all these conferences if a vendor wants to pay to have a table, where they could sit up and then if people want to avail themselves of that vendor services, they can walk up to that table and they can self-select and say, hey, I'm interested in your product. But if you just wholesale send the list out to those vendors, I think what number one, we're doing ourselves and our attendees a disservice because we're just going to add to their email volume and they're going to get irritated. But we're also doing that vendor's job for them.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah,
So
Chris, you're right. NPMA does they have it set up where we have a vendors area within the conference, and we do collect all that information. And because that's what NPMA does to sell those slots to those vendors, is we say, hey, we have museum professionals. This is how many from this state. This is how many of them are history museums, art museums. And like we collect all that information, but we don't give it to them. Like we don't give them all of the email addresses. That's the whole point of them coming and paying to come to the conference. So you're right on. So I definitely think that we should, as in NMA, collect those data things just for us internally. But I don't think privacy wise, I don't think our members would appreciate us giving out their information without their consent.
just a quick sequencing question because I don't know, and I'm sorry I was actually absent in some of the planning meetings, not all of them, but some of them. Did we arrive upon a theme before we sent out requests for proposals?
Yeah.
We did. Okay.
Yeah, we had a theme pretty early on. So
And then just wanted to add real quick, I have to jump out here in a minute. I gotta go teach. But just wanted to add real quick, last on that networking, the thing where they want to list and stuff, that's the whole point of the conference is to come to the conference in person and then you network and gain
yeah.
information and make connections that way. That's kind of the whole point. One of the whole points. You go to the sessions and learn stuff, but it's also the other major point is to network. So if they want people's contact info, they can ask for it themselves in person.
I
Yeah.
came home with a whole like little packet of cards.
Yeah. Yeah, me too. Yeah, me too. Like, and so it's like if they were not like they it's very easy to make those connections and stuff. So I would say I'm gonna say it's kind of a door I don't want us to open. It's I would say in future, no, I don't think we should. If anybody else disagrees or the majority thinks that we could put together a list that could go out somehow, I'm all for whatever the majority wants. But my personal is I'm thinking, yeah, that's something that we don't need to add the work and it opens up a lot of issues of yeah privacy and consent to release info and then what are those like I think because I know I would be pissed if all of a sudden like I was getting barraged by contacts about something about smaller museums who wanted help with stuff and just wouldn't be able to help and just and whatever reason they'd be reaching out but that's the whole point is we can encourage people to say well we can't give out other NMA members information but you're more than welcome to connect with people and I'm happy to introduce you to some people while we're here and stuff if
Maybe
you
we
want
should
or
make that more of a like on at the like the Monday night thing circulation is like maybe a business card
yeah or
exchange
even there could be
and
maybe like a meet and greet type thing. I always thought it'd be
make it a
good to,
contest of who can get the most business cards.
yeah, something like that. That'd be, yeah, that'd be cool. But yeah,
And you know,
that's kind of my whole thing
yeah,
with it. Also, I know for like for the email newsletter, and Cassie and I went over this on when we met and on Zoom, is you have to have the person's consent to give out their email address and stuff.
Yeah.
And if somebody, it's law, like it's federal law to like do consent. And I know that they're providing their email to us, the organization, and their other members, but they are not providing the consent directly to the people who are asking for the list, if that makes
I
sense.
agree.
So we can always just say, unfortunately, it's not allowed under current Nebraska law for us to give out emails, but feel free to ask anybody in person. It would be my thing. But anyway, so I think those were just in the chat or just my few things I wanted to bring up on the monthly museum musings. But unfortunately, I have to head out. If I think of anything else, I'll let you know. We'll
All
talk
right.
about it at the board meeting coming up. So,
Thanks, April.
all right, thank you.
Along those notes too, can you guys hear me okay? I'm using
Yeah.
like our rejected computer right now. Mine didn't want to work. I do think it was a little harder networking at this one, just with Monday, the sessions ending at different times, which I know that was more on the presenter requesting a longer time or a shorter time. And then also not knowing, like in the open area, you didn't want to talk too much if the long session was still going on in the open area. So I think that made it a little harder. And I've been by myself as a new person at NMA several years ago, and I am not one to be like, "Hi, random person, I don't know, how are you doing?" Like, if we're in a session together, for sure, I'll like talk to you and whatever. But I think if maybe we had some, like, we've made more in the social hour just in general at the end, um where we have like questions or just some kind of like open thing to like start some of those conversations, that might really help. I think those name badges were really helpful. I know anytime I saw a first time member, I tried to introduce myself as a board member to them to be like, hey, and that just let me know. And
Mhm.
having their museum logo on the name tags, I think Stewars Karen thought of that, was really helpful for me too, because I don't necessarily know you by your face, but I know you work at this museum. So that was really cool, I think, in my opinion, too, that I think could help that further, because it might be a logo you're familiar with, like just driving down the street or something, you're like, oh, you must be near me, let's talk, kind of a thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I loved both of those as well. So Karen, you had a lot to do with that, right? Or was that Becky
Other
or
Karen.
other Karen? Yeah, no, that was we'll make a note for next year because that it looks professional, it was useful. What are your thoughts on doing Katie got me thinking, we've never done it before, but what about a guided social hour, like museum specific party games, or like think of I know it's like Cards Against Humanity, but what if it was like museum specific? Like get people like drinking and like socializing. It would force people to get to know each other in a good way. But sometimes people like the more spontaneous, like, hey, I really want to talk to this one specific person and I want to catch up. And I'm like, is that room for the conference, or is that room for like you guys to go to a bar afterwards and go do your own thing? Like I don't know, we've never done that before, and I think that like that would be really fun. But
We at our at the Germans for Russia conference here, in Lincoln, so like 2 years ago, we played like it was like almost like a bingo. So you had to go find people that fit the little square and get their signature. So you had to go around the whole room and find somebody to sign your little square. Um, for I don't know, some of us like Bessarabian ancestry and things like that. Um, and it was a great way to go around and talk to people, and they were like, oh no, you got to go talk to them because they're the only ones with that ancestry. Um and it was kind of fun. It was a great, I was really new to the museum at that time, and I got to meet a lot of people that way. So yeah, I think that we'll figure out, and maybe I think an icebreaker or a fun game would be great for that um Monday nights. I'll I'll bring it up to, I'll make sure I'll send it to Becky, so she's good at that kind of stuff. So all right, let's see what else. I like this idea of a networking space.
and I think that too, we wanted to be in the Stirs main building. That's where we had a lot of our stuff in,
Yeah.
and I think that that would be unique to each of the different museums that we have it at. So next year is an Alliance, not Arapaho, as I've been made fun of so many freaking times about. An Alliance, it depends on, I've never been out to their museum. I've only seen pictures, and it would just depend on that planning committee. So I think that each, and that's what's kind of fun, each conference feels so different from one another. Um, and
They
so,
would
but no,
all be self-contained in one building, but they do have a
okay.
lot of space. So when it was there a couple years ago, they have a room downstairs where it's a pretty good sized room, but then they have a nice reception area, I mean, they have a catering kitchen in their basement, so they have the but it will all be in one room, one building, different levels, but one building. So because they don't have multiple buildings, there is a second building that's like their military museum, but there won't be anything there. I mean, we'll probably go and visit there, but there won't be
I
anything
think she
there.
said that the reception might be there because it's larger.
Could be. I don't know.
I don't know. She's still making decisions and planning, so there's nothing set in stone. So,
This might be to everybody on here, but also to the board members. And something to think about, I guess, between now and the next planning committee for next year's conference is what's a goal? Like specifically, what's like a goal that we want out of next year's conference? I feel like for having it at Stir this year, it was centrally located, and I think that we were just wanting attendance, and we had a record-breaking attendance. So next year's conference, what will be a goal? Because then that can help guide us with our theme, that can help guide us with marketing, that can help guide us with programming and stuff like that. So if you want to write down any ideas that you have for that, because I think I don't think we've done specific goal, and what is a benchmark that we want to get to. I know we had it at the Prairie Museum. We were coming out of COVID, and we were just like, we just want to have a conference. And then Columbus, I think, was really, again, still coming out of that COVID funk. I think that we're just now coming to a new as far as with NMA. So that would, I think, be helpful for planning. Does anybody else have any ideas as far as things that we need to be thinking on between the now and planning committee?
Well, one thing that we're going to want to at least keep in our minds is so in next year is so in 2025, where NPMA will also be in Omaha. So we're going to have that's two conferences within our state, and one's in the East, one's in the West. And I know that some organizations may not be able to go to both, but maybe if we kind of figure out a way to, incorporate things, hey, it's the East and the West this year or something to that effect, or maybe help each other with okay, what's NPMA going to be doing? So maybe we don't duplicate what they're doing, and so we do something else. And we had great attendance, but I hate to say it, but not everybody's going to go to Alliance. I mean, we're just going to have to keep that in mind. But we have to keep in mind that we have a regional conference that people might be able to go to, But again, if you have a small budget, which one are you going to go to? Is something that we're going to need to keep in mind of. So, I mean, if we can kind of coordinate with them, maybe make this like an offshoot or something to that effect. That's just something that we just need to
Yeah, I'm on the planning committee, so I'll bring that up when we're getting ready for starting on Omaha. I'll bring it up. I know Andrew Donahue. I think everybody met him. He was really impressed with NMA. So, and he really wants to see a larger collaboration with the his state museum associations and NPMA. So, I think he's already going to try and push some kind of a collaboration, especially because our conference is in the spring, their conference is in the fall. So I think they want to come and help advertise for the NPMA conference. And I think we can even try and do some partner like incentivization thing to try and attend both, something like that. So I think that's a great idea.
I know one of the other things I know Becky talked about too, Becky With and I talked about is maybe trying to bring in somebody big. Like the last time we had Alliance, they brought in a professional trainer from Past Perfect, and it was a huge hit. That's a big draw. So maybe we focus on rather than like a big draw workshop. I don't know, like maybe get somebody back from Past Perfect to do training and that kind of thing. I don't know if it's Past Perfect or another big museum person. So we have a little money. We can pay for somebody we can pay for a little bit larger workshop person. So that's one of the considerations for next year, because it is a little further out. So if anybody has any ideas or what they'd like to see, what would be a big draw?
Well, I think it also depends too on what the results of this, if any survey, whatever we get, because I've noticed that it's very cyclical. So we did a lot of programming related items this year. Well, the last survey we did, well, we want more governance type of things, or we want, that type of thing. So it kind of, if our surveys say, hey, we want specifically educational programs or something like that, maybe we can find somebody related to that, or we want governance, related topics. It really just like comes around, like one year it's this, and the next year it's like a 180, completely different than what we did this year. So we've tried to do conferences that have like a balance of it, and it has worked, but it sort of just depends. So, but yeah, that's something we'll have to keep an eye on.
And I have to go. I've got some living history folks out here to do photo sessions. But if you can all, like what April is saying, email me ideas that you would think for questions for the survey. I do think we probably need to get on this sooner than later. Should I wait to our board meeting on the 7th? Or should I go ahead and start? I'll start getting it put together here starting next Monday.
Yeah,
So
and
probably,
can you use our Google account so that we have the information within our Google account
yeah,
so that it's preserved and for future reference? Does that make sense?
yep,
Okay.
yep. But yeah, if anybody wants to email me on questions, that would be good. Ooh, that would be good. I forgot we did one last year. Yeah. Okay. Well, we might not have to reinvent the wheel. So we want to look at the questions that asked.
We do one every year, so there's several of examples. So
Oh, okay.
um
All right, but I gotta go. So thank
okay.
you.
Anyway, so Jennifer, I hate to put you on the spot, but you were a first time attendee. Um, is there what did you enjoy? What would you like us to improve on?
Yeah, I like I said, this was my first time. I really enjoyed it. I liked it, but I kind of agree with what other people said about, especially since the only person I knew there was Aaron. So, um, it would have been nice to have maybe like on the eve before, the conference began, like a little, informal get together, like in the hotel, or something like that. Just, to because I met people and I'm not really shy, but it was just also kind of hard because you're going from one thing to the other. Um, but I appreciate the diversity of workshops because it was nice to have something to pick from. We don't have our historical society museum doesn't have any outbuildings, so obviously that's not going to be of use for me. But the textiles were, and so I really enjoyed that. Um, and yeah, I mean, I'm looking forward to the next one. So my only complaint was that it ended too soon.
Good. Does anybody else have anything to add?
Maybe an idea in terms of like networking or getting to know people or something like that. I know that I think like now this might be difficult for us to do, but how I think MPMA does like a first time attendee is sort of paired with like a mentor or someone that's been, going to the conference or been involved. Maybe that's something we could do, potentially do, or maybe we have like the first time attendees meet and have a board member or somebody, talk with them, say, hey, this is kind of what's going to happen, whatever, just to give them and maybe it's not somebody like I know Jennifer, but maybe I'd be paired with somebody completely different, somebody I don't know. So that again, that helps me too, because then I meet somebody new and that sort of thing. So maybe that's just something that we on that Monday night we kind of, or something somewhere in there, we just sort of do a, hey, welcome to NMA, let us know what we can do for you, that type of thing. So that's just an idea.
Yeah, that's a great
And I
idea.
think there was some confusion too on Monday to like go straight to their workshops. And there wasn't like a big welcome, this is how it's going to go. Here's where this building is, here's where that building is. The STIR staff was great at getting people where we needed to go in the maze. You can tell they've given those instructions once or twice or hundreds of times every day. But they were always really helpful at going and getting stuff for us or doing anything. I think though, if that was your first conference experience and you didn't know, like, oh, we're just jumping into it, that could have been a little startling to be like, oh, I didn't realize I was supposed to actually go over there. I've just been hanging out here, kind of a thing.
Yeah, I think that's good. Maybe, like you said, kind of like a brief sort of orientation, this is how it's going to go. And so, those of us who are newbies are not going, especially in a place like the store where there's multiple buildings and, you know, you're not sure where you're going exactly. But oh, I was gonna say too, something, and I know it's a lot of work, maybe like a chance just to, or maybe something you put on the back of a program, like what museums are going to be there, because not necessarily people from the museums, but like, Store Museum, the Saunders County Museum, Douglas County Museum, the, Jewish Historical Society, because I made a comment on the last day in a panel, and that I was, director of the um, Jewish Historical Society. And I had a lot of people come up to me afterwards saying, oh, I have questions about XYZ. And, I mean, it was of course like right after the whole conference ended. Um, but, I think it would be nice to say, oh, okay, so and so's here from um, this museum, and I really want to talk to them. I really want to talk, I'm interested in whatever it is that they are doing. So, maybe something like that would help. I don't know if that makes sense, but
Oh, no, that makes sense. All right. Um, Anybody else? Anybody else have any comments, questions?
So this is Linda Buck, and I am with the High Plains Historical Society in McCook, Nebraska. And I apologize. I think it was my crew who cornered you in the gas station. Um, so I would say that this is our third conference. Have been attending every year as a priority to attend because of the networking, the ideas, just being out in the field with other professionals and talking through some of the issues and problems that we all run across to see how other people are solving for those. As far as I love Jennifer's idea of noting who else is there, because I have a personal project where I am working on a history of a pioneer woman here in McCook who has ties in eastern Nebraska. And so the connections with the museums in the areas where she lived were very valuable to me. And I sought those out myself. Just it worked. So behind the scenes, love being behind the scenes and seeing how other people have store their items, protect their items, how they do the intake of the items, where they store the things that have come in that are not yet ready to go out on the floor. Those are very valuable to me personally, just to help me understand where I may improve upon some of the processes that we have in storage of our care and collection.
I'm Pat Carpenter, and I'm a volunteer from the Saline County Historical Museum in Dorchester. And this is the second one I attended, and I went to Columbus, and they did an excellent job last year. Excellent job. And it was neat to see last year how they were able to do it in a hotel and not out in the actual facility like Stewart this year. So it was nice to really see that. I do appreciate that you keep the cost reasonable, because for me as a volunteer, I have to pay for it on my own, transportation, everything myself. And I am going to go to Alliance because I've been there before and it's a wonderful museum and I want to know more about it. The food, I don't think you should have to apologize for the food at all. It was excellent I mean, just excellent. And I know for me, different organizations, people want meat and cheese and fresh fruit. That blows your food budget. What you had was reasonable food budget. But if you have unlimited food budget, do the meat and the cheese, the fresh fruit, try to please everybody, but it's going to cost you a lot to do that. So that was excellent. I liked it this year and last year too, whoever's running it, that they keep things on time. I want to be there. So I want to start on time. I want to finish on time. And if I can't, well, then that's my problem, but don't have people wait for other people. So that's really been excellent. My big session that I was looking forward to was immigrants and the log house one. And that was the first one I went to. Well, they said, first of all, there were two paid people that were supposed to be doing that session. Either they didn't know what the session was supposed to be, or they chose not to do any research on it, because what we did, we just went to the house and she started the fire. So it was nice and warm in there. And then they just talked about what they did related to the tours that come in and how many come in. And it was very informative. And then finally, the last 10 minutes of the session, the one paid staff lady who wasn't dressed in the outfit, but the other says, do you want to go to the log house? I'm going, yes, that's why I came. I wanted to go to that. So we went out there. Obviously, not everybody went because it was cold, but there was staff in there. A lady who was either a volunteer or paid staff that started talking about something, but the leader did not let her have attention for it. So she was a wealth of information of what we could have learned in that short period of time. And I know it was cold out there. We couldn't go out there. But as a speaker, you move your topic inside. You talk about what the immigrants did, when they came and the process. So I was disappointed that they did not stay on topic, but everybody who went to it enjoyed talking with other people to see what they did. So it wasn't a waste of time, but I really enjoyed the conference and it was excellent. So thank you for everybody who planned it and did all the hard work, because it's a lot of work. So thank you.
All right. Anybody else? All right. Well, then I appreciate everybody logging on and giving us feedback. I think we're about done. I'm sorry. I am going to work on a conference resource page. Several of the presenters have shared their PowerPoints. All of them have agreed to have given me permission to post their emails. So look forward to a conference resource page soon. I'm going to be on vacation next week. I was hoping to have it done before vacation. Doesn't look like it's going to get done before vacation. It's been a little crazy around here. We're moving our library, and yeah, well, you know, things don't go always as planned when you're moving an entire library from one end of the room to the other end of the room. So you know, it's surprising. I have another job. I have an actual paid job. Anyway, so I want to thank everybody for coming on, and I really look forward to seeing everybody in Alliance next year. So if anybody has suggestions for a theme and conference and session ideas, feel free to email me or April. And we'll pass it on to the conference planning people. And also next month's let me see, next month's sorry, I just blanked on what next month's monthly musing is. Next month's monthly musing is, don't tell me. I just put it up too. Next month's musing is going to be the Texas Association of Museums. They're going to come share like their successes and what they do. They're a very strong organization, so they're going to tell us what they've been doing and some of their programming and things. So that looks great. And then the following month in June, April will be talking about how to do MailChimp and e-newsletters. And July will be the big one with Rob Bozell talking about NAGPRA. So I think that'll be an exciting one. All right. Thank you all for popping in today. Have a great day.